Z Junkie. This morning's podcast is on there always will be those who do not want to see us recover. Yes, once again, there always will be those who do not want to see us recover. This is with people we've known in our active use all our lives. It deals with those people. It deals with the people we come into recovery with. And it deals with the people we're yet to meet. When I got into recovery and I started learning tools and I started getting into the steps, okay, which is the program, where the solution lies. When I got into the steps 4 days in, okay, found a sponsor, got into the steps, my behavior started changing. Within a few weeks of working that first step, which is the working of the first step is like the working of the rest of the steps and all the steps in their entirety. The working of a first step and working the steps is doing the reading of the literature that exists in the fellowship of your choosing. Okay, whatever that solution may be. Okay, don't ever mistake the solution for the addiction, because it's the solution that we pick to survive that onslaught of the addiction, the life force that's being sucked up out of us by the addiction, by way of choice we make our own or not. When we make it our own, that's all it cares about. Okay, the solution that we choose to deal with that, okay, could be food, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, it could be codependent relationships, it could be work, it could be gambling, it could be drugs. Okay, I'm a junkie, so it's drugs for me. Okay, so that's a solution. So the solution, when we put down that solution, we need another solution. Okay, and that lies within the steps. It doesn't lie within the fellowship that you can identify with by your solution. Okay, the solution lies within those steps. And getting back to working the steps is doing the reading your fellowship may have on those. Okay, doing the writing that's required in those steps so you can get some understanding. Knowing that true understanding doesn't come until there's actual application. Once again, true understanding doesn't come unless there's actual application, okay? And until that actual application becomes lifestyle, getting some lifestyle in that in some way, shape, or form, okay, do we work a step? And since there's lifestyle in it, and lifestyle is part of the work of the step one in all the steps, okay, that means we never graduate. There's no graduation here. Okay, so when we come in, our behavior starts to change. If we're doing the work on our steps, if we come in just thinking meetings is going to change anything, well, we're just resulting back to our same old behavior, because once again we're expecting something outside of ourselves, okay, to fix us, okay, and the meetings are outside of ourselves. They'll never be sufficient enough. They're crucial, but they'll never be sufficient enough, okay, to keep our addiction arrested so we could get into recovery and start experiencing life. Anything outside of ourselves will never be sufficient. Medicine, psychiatry, hospitals, jails, counseling, therapy, okay? Never once have I said not to do those things. Religion, it's another outside, okay? All right? Never have I said not to do these things. But for the addict, they'll never be sufficient, because they have one thing in common. They're all outside of our being, okay? The spiritual principles is something that we internalize within our being. Spiritual is the system within, okay? So internalizing those principles, it originates from the inside, and that's how we experience getting our own recovery. So our behavior changes, getting back to this podcast. When our behavior changes, the people we were with, usually there's some type of codependent relationship going on there, do not know how to handle us growing up. And there's many, okay, there's two types of people I've experienced, of the ones I've known, okay, came to recovery and the ones I've known. One type is that they just don't know how. Okay, they really just don't know how to handle me being able to handle myself. Okay, and I need to move away from that. Okay, just for today. There's a second type of person, okay, that wants to get me healthy, but only so healthy that I can start producing again, okay, making the money, doing whatever, but not too healthy and where I have the ability to choose, okay. They still want to make the choices for me, all right, because everybody made choices for me in my active use. Everybody. The person I'm talking about, or the people I'm talking about that resemble that person, police, probation officers. My solution, okay, to survive the onslaught of the addiction made choices for me. Everything outside of myself, once again, outside of myself, made choices for me. So when I begin the ability to get the only power back in which the God of my understanding gave me, which is the power that lies in choice, okay, people start freaking out, okay. Sometimes they'll adjust to that, sometimes they won't. So sometimes I need to move on from those people, and sometimes you can work with those people. That depending on the scenario. Anyways, those are the people I've known. So the people I've came in with, I mean, I was in for a month or two in the fellowship of my choosing, and it was in that month or two I was already leaving the people I came in with, okay? I was already going a different direction, because somewhere in that 4 to 6 week period, I heard somebody share that they didn't come in here to meet my friends, okay? Okay, I didn't come in here to make friends. I came in here to find my purpose. I so needed to hear that, because around that same time, I had to start leaving these people, because my purpose in recovery was very different than theirs, and I needed to move on. And I had the ability to do that because I was in the steps, not knowing it then, but I was in the steps, seeking the God of my understanding. And it's in the God of my understanding in which I find recovery. You know, so we have the people we've known, and we have the people we've come in with, and there's going to be a process in all that. And working the steps, okay, is very, very important, because people usually are going to want us, like the people I came in with and the people I've known, there was one thing in common between the two of them. They wanted me to get healthy, but not too healthy. Once again, they wanted me to get healthy, but not too healthy. But there's one thing that exists that wants me to continuously get healthy and continuously progress in an advanced state of experiencing the freedom which this program offers. And that's the 12 steps, because that is the program. Okay? And it's through the 12 steps that I find the God of my understanding. And through the God of my understanding, I find my purpose. Okay? Not through people. Do you see? To seek people instead of the God of your understanding, okay, spells big time disaster. Once again, to seek people instead of the God of your understanding as the essence of recovery is a big time disaster. Okay? And when we do that, it's because there's no steps involved. No steps equal people seeking to fix us. Once again, we're coming into the fellowship, we're not doing any steps, okay? Because we're hearing some urban legends or some opinions about how, you know, oh my God, you know, no. It spells disaster when we get into that mode of thought, okay? Because once again, nothing outside of ourselves is going to fix us, because nothing outside of ourselves caused what's going on with the addict. It's an internal situation, and only those steps, okay, and the internalizing of those principles allow us to get our own recovery. Okay, so yes, seeking people as the essence of our recovery instead of the God of our understanding spells big disaster. It's coming. It's coming. And it happens in the absence of no steps. That's what goes on when there's no steps. I don't care what fellowship you're in, all right, that suits whatever solution you're in, okay? Because remember, don't mistake that solution for the addiction. Okay? The addiction wants your life force. Doesn't give a rat's behind about the drug of choice you're using, okay? Period. All right. So what goes on here? What goes on? So if I'm in a fellowship, okay, if I'm in a fellowship, I always gotta do one thing. Okay, I've learned this. Okay, when I'm in a fellowship, and this goes especially with the sponsor. Okay, I've been through a few of them for this reason. Okay, if my sponsor or the people who I'm fellowshipping with isn't in some way, shape, or form, okay, bringing me closer to the God of my understanding, okay, I need to rethink. Okay, I need to rethink that sponsor, and I need to rethink that fellowship. Okay, and that's where the spirit of rotation comes in. Spirit of rotation is crucial. In the fellowships, we hear about it in regards to service positions. Okay, now I'm going to give it in regards to groups. Okay, because I might need to move on. Okay, and understand the autonomy that exists within me and in the groups. And I need to match that. Okay, the spirit of rotation is so crucial in groups because groups are meant to die, okay, they're meant to live on, and they're meant to be created. So once again, groups are meant to live on, they're meant to die, and they're meant to be created, okay. So if you can't find a group that is bringing you closer to the God of your understanding and or a sponsor, okay, that's bringing you closer to the God of your understanding, maybe you need to go create one and get a door open for the person who's still sick and suffering with whatever solution it may be that you used in your act of use. Okay, the sponsor brings me to the God of my understanding through guiding me through the steps, through their own experiences, strength, and hope. No advice. Experience, strength, and hope. Okay. The fellowship by people sharing in the solution. In the solution. Okay, and where they're going, we're at the God of their understanding, brings me to the God of my understanding. Okay, you understand? And people honestly sharing and understanding some traditions and steps, okay, some way, shape, or form, okay, in that meeting needs to be exhibited. If it's not, it turns into a shit show. Okay, all right? So I've seen honest shares and people actually working the program and just sharing what that's doing for them in their lives spread just as quick as any shit show I've ever seen since 1978. So yes, the autonomy. You might need to go move from group to group, or you might need to create your own. Okay? If the sponsor and or the fellowship, the people you're fellowshipping with isn't bringing you closer to the God of your understanding. That's just my experience. So the spirit of rotation is crucial because also it comes in when I first come into recovery, what was acceptable for me at 2 weeks in recovery wasn't acceptable at 6 weeks in recovery. What was acceptable at 6 weeks in recovery wasn't acceptable at 4 months in recovery. What was acceptable at 4 months in recovery for me wasn't acceptable anymore at 9 months. What was acceptable at 9 months in recovery wasn't acceptable at 18. What was acceptable for 18 months in my recovery, okay, wasn't acceptable at a couple of years. And so on and so on and so on. Because why? We keep recovering. If we're actually working the steps, reading about them, writing on them, sharing them, understanding the principles, putting those principles into actual application so we could get true understanding and making the lifestyles out of them. Okay, when that's happening, that scenario I just talked about, that what was acceptable and what was not acceptable anymore will take place. And you might need to find another group. You might. I don't know. You might not. But if you do, I just wanted to get into that for a moment. Okay, because we keep recovering, because when we seek people as the essence of our recovery, right? If we seek people for the essence of our recovery, instead of the God of our understanding, this is what it looks like. 100% dependency, okay, all right, or close to it, on the God of my understanding, okay, has spelled out an unimaginable independence in my life that I could never imagined. Being 100% dependable on the God of my understanding has spelled out an independence that I could have never imagined in my life. Let's take that same with a person. 100% dependence on a person spells out acute codependency. Okay? 100% dependence on a person spells out an acute, okay, codependent relationships. Right? So, my dependency on my God, of my understanding, brings me to an independency that I can't even describe. An independence that I can't even describe. Okay, that same dependence on a human being would bring an ugly, acute, codependent relationship, which we're both walking around spiritually dead, because there's a giver and a taker in a codependent relationship. Each is as sick as the other. Each is as equally sick as the other. Okay? So to find the God of our understanding, once again, is crucial, because there's going to be those, okay, yeah, there's going to be those that don't want to see us recover, okay, or get healthy, but not too healthy. You know, we come to find our purpose. We come to find our purpose through finding the God of our understanding. See, I can't repurpose you. I can't repurpose that tree, this rock, or that mountain over there, or the fellowship that I walk in, okay, to find my purpose. You see, I can't come up to somebody and say, hey man, you know, what's my purpose? Really? I can't add or take anything more to that, okay? It's the God of our understanding that knows our purpose. And we find that through working the 12 steps, which is the program, no matter what fellowship you're in. That is the program, no matter what fellowship you're in. Okay? You know, so there it is, you know. This is the essence of recovery. Okay? You know, and I say the God of my understanding, you see, I get 95% of my recovery directly from the God of my understanding. The other 5% I get from use. Okay, that means I need to be listening all the time, really present. Because if only 5% come from use, I need to be present, because I never know when it's coming. If 100% came from use, I could just dip in and out when I wanted to. So I really need to learn how to become present. But let's get back to the God of our understanding. So this is what works. This is how it works for me. Okay, commands. Okay, I get commands from the God of my understanding. Now, a command to humans just to tell you. Okay, see, the God of my understanding tells me. Okay, but it also instructs and directs me. Tells me, but also directs and instructs me in what it is that I need to do. Sometimes he tells me the directions and instructions, okay, come up at a later point. So what I do between him telling me and the directions and instructions is that I just keep doing the next right thing. Okay, but when I hear a command from the God of my understanding, his commands can only be carried out if I'm in principle. Okay, they cannot be carried out if I'm in defect. See, when I hear a command to the God of my understanding, and I just run with it, and close myself off to everything and just run with it, no, you can't do that. See, when I hear a command from the God of my understanding, I need to even be that much more honest, open-minded, and willing to remain that way. Okay, because there's a lot of times the God of my understanding, the command that he gave me and what he wants me to do, switched it up. Why would he do that? To see if I'm listening. Okay, I had one lightning bolt hit me from the God of my understanding. You know that big lightning bolt thing? Yeah, it was 4 days in. Okay, the lightning bolt that hit me from him was that you're a brat, Z. Okay, it was the loudest he ever spoke to me. You're a brat. Okay, instead of sitting on that seawall 4 days in, wanting to blow your head out and have your brains splattered all against that wall so you could leave one last mess for somebody to clean up, why don't you stop crying for a change and just be interested, be enthused, and be generally concerned about getting into the step work. Okay, you don't have to think these things. You don't have to be anything but be them. Okay, and he showed me. He was hitting his forehead in frustration. Okay, for a half a century I've been trying to have a conversation with you. He let me see his frustration. Okay? And all you do is cry and get me out of this. Okay, why don't you just try being, he said, you brat. Okay? Since that time, there's been an increase in sensitivity, not loudness. Sensitivity. So when he gives me a command, okay, the only way I could carry that command out is in principle. Okay? All right? Not hearing something from the God of my understanding and running with it, closed-minded, isolated from people, and thinking it's only me and him. Because he let me know early on, didn't you try the me and you thing before Z? Didn't it almost kill you? Okay? The group was very important to the God of my understanding. And it still is today. But I must seek him for my recovery. Okay? I follow his commands only when I'm in spiritual principle and operating out of spiritual principle. If I get into defect when he gave me a command, it's over. It's over. When the pain gets great enough, and what it is I just spoke about, will become painfully apparent at some point. And that's when we'll change from seeking people as the essence of our recovery and get to those steps and in that program and find the God of our understanding. Because the only essence to recovery is the God of our understanding. It's not people. So I say this prayer, and it's more than a memorized prayer. Okay, I say, dear God of my understanding, I honestly accept all the thinking, feeling, and behavior that surrounds you being the essence of my recovery. And I now surrender to this, completely defeated, praying only for your forgiveness and only for the knowledge of your will and your power to be carried out in me. And doing it. That's once again the first application in order for any other applications to take place. The essence of recovery does not lie in people or anything outside of ourselves. The essence of recovery lies within the God of our understanding and within ourselves. That is the true essence of recovery. Okay, because there's going to always be people who do not want to see us recover.